Guten Morgen. Kann ich mir bitte ein paar Eier ausleihen? We just want to borrow some eggs.
It's a shame I wasn't able to contact the person who nominated the Funny Games, because it means I don't know if they want me to review the original Austrian film or the US remake. Well, if in doubt, look at both, right? I suspect this will be a lot easier than when I reviewed both Beauty and the Beast movies though, as the remake is apparently shot for shot. I don't know much else about this film, and this would be my first time watching this one. Will I find the Funny Games amusing? Here's my review of the Funny Games. George, Anne and George Jr. are heading to their lake house for a holiday, and en route see their neighbours with whom they've arranged to meet the next day, with two men in white polo shirts. Not long after the family arrive, the two men come by to greet them. Paul at the front door helps the father and son load the boat into the lake, whilst Peter meets Anne and asks for eggs for their neighbours. Peter drops the eggs and asks for more, and then claims to have broken those when Lucky the dog jumps on him. Paul enthusiastically wants to borrow a golf club, but Anne gets annoyed at the men's insistence and asks them to leave, even asking George to show them out. After things get a little bit heated, George slaps Paul, and Paul responds by breaking George's leg with the golf club. Paul suggests that they play a game, and after a short game of hot and cold, Anne finds Lucky's body. The men bet that the family will all be dead by 9 AM the next morning, and play a series of games with the family as a way of mentally and physically torturing them, including making Anne strip naked and putting George Jr.'s head inside a pillowcase. George Jr. does manage to escape at one point and gets to the neighbour's house with Paul in pursuit. The young boy finds the body of his neighbours, but also finds a hunting rifle and attempts to shoot Paul. Unfortunately, there are no bullets in the gun. When the family is reunited, the home invaders decide that George Jr. is the first to get shot, and whilst Paul is getting food from the fridge, the boy tries to run away but is shot and killed by Peter. Paul scolds him, and the two leave Anne and George devastated and locked in the house. The two work together to try and get Anne's phone working after Peter dropped it in the water early in the day. George, bound by the chair he's in due to his leg, begs Anna to get help while he keeps trying the phone. He doesn't get through, and Anne is brought back later that night by returning Paul and Peter. All hope seems lost until Anne grabs the gun and kills Peter. That is until Paul grabs the remote control and rewinds the film, preventing Peter's death. George is shot and killed shortly afterwards. In the early morning light, Paul and Peter take Anne onto the lake, bound and gagged, and throw her in, leaving her to drown. They then head to another house on the lake and ask to borrow eggs. Director Michael Haneke says that The Funny Games is a violent but otherwise pointless movie.
Well then, I guess there's no point in my reviewing it then, is there?
Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please give this video a like and share it on social media. Director Michael Haneke says The Funny Games is a violent but otherwise pointless movie. From my point of view, it's fascinating to look at as it bucks many trends you might expect and fills you with a sense of hopelessness. Every time there's even a hint of hope, it's dashed by the polo-shirted men. Georgie's attempted escape, Anne's attempt to get help, George phoning for help, and even Anne finding a knife on the boat right at the end. The only time the family look like they've won is when Anne outright shoots Peter with the rifle, killing him instantly. Paul rewinding the film to prevent it isn't the only time when the fourth wall is broken, and so for as shocking as it is, it also isn't without foreshadowing. Paul at several points asks the audience questions directly, asking who we think will win the bet and whether we're happy with the plot development, and even mentioning at one point that the film isn't at feature length yet. It's one of the aspects that makes the film so interesting, as is the fact that we don't see much of the violence, usually just the aftermath such as Lucky's body, George's death being off screen, and the torture and death of George. It all happens away from view. The only actual graphic violence you see is again Peter's death before it's reversed. It gives the view that the filmmaker almost respects or feels pity for the victims, but not so much for the sociopathic pair. On The Attackers though, they have a really weird chemistry. Paul calls his partner Peter, Tom, Tubby, or in the German version, Fatty. He demeans him and yet clearly cares for him, as opposed to showing respect for the family but treating them horribly. Again, it makes for a fascinating character that a better reviewer than me could do an entire essay on. Speaking of interesting characters, the way Anne and George react to the death of Georgie is remarkable. George initially breaks down and never really recovers, whilst Anne knows that they have to snap out of it for the moment to ensure their survival, but she never comes across as cold, vomiting when she has a moment to think about what's happened and assuring George that it wasn't his fault. It's the only time they're interesting, but then again the stars of this film are Peter and Paul. In the US version they're played by Michael Pitt and Brady Corbett, and they're brilliant. Certainly better than the only other thing I've seen Corbett in, the live-action Thunderbirds movie from 2004, where he played Alan Tracy. You know, that's the second time I've mentioned that film in passing. Naomi Watts does a great job as Anne, but Tim Roth has done better. His American accent slips here and there, and I feel he's not that into it at times. You know what else is unusual about this film? Little to no music. There's classical music at the beginning when the family are playing a guessing game, but otherwise the only music is a song called Bonehead by Naked City, which is frankly noise, and purposely so. This is the case in both the US and Austrian versions, for which I heard was a shot-for-shot remake, and after watching them both, yeah, they're pretty much identical, albeit one in German, one in English. I have a B grade GCSE in German, so the subtitles were vital because I'm not exactly fluent, but it's really surprising how similar they are, especially when they're different cinematographers. It shows the influence Michael Haneke has on the film. The only cast member between both versions is Suzanne Haneke, Michael's wife, who has a tiny role in both. I would describe the films as brutal but not graphic for the most part. Funny Games comes with a recommend from me. Its subversive nature and charismatic but unlikable villains make for a really gripping thriller throughout. Whether it's the original German or US remake, both films had the same effect and will make you think twice about letting anyone borrow eggs. The Funny Games isn't funny at all, but it's intense, captivating, and well worth your time. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please give this video a like and share it on social media. Maybe leave a comment below about what you thought of this video. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe for more content. If you'd like to support me in other ways, you can buy merchandise at bradleyj.tmail.com, where you can buy t-shirts, tote bags and more. Or you can become a Patreon at www.patreon.com/BradleyJVoices for just £1 a month. Coming up next for the Film Review Open Challenge is Bubba Hotep. For now though, thank you very much for watching.